this next election cycle, who's going to win? It's going to be Gavin Newsom against J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance is subhuman and Gavin Newsom mugs.
J.D. Vance is subhuman?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
It's funny is that he's part of the TradCon Zionist Ben Shapiro Daily Wire, Israeli Wire Inc. And he put Clav on his podcast thinking that he was going to be able to get a little bit of the Gen Z youth that they're losing so much. They're realizing they have no connection to Gen Z anymore. And so this was a Hail Mary attempt. Let's bring on the young white guy and we'll get him. And all he did was just hurt J.D. Vance even more. All he did is help exactly the side that they're trying to fight against so hard right now.
J.D. Vance is subhuman?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
He's got a very short total facial width to height ratio. He's obese, very recessed side profile, whereas Newsom is like 6'3" Chad. Yeah, but I mean, like this. J.D. Vance, like I think.
Good looking.
Well, we could talk about J.D. Vance. Like I think J.D. Vance, would he be a better candidate and probably closer to me in terms of policy than Gavin Newsom? Yes, but he's just not going to be good enough to be deserving. I think the right has kind of let down the voters for the longest time. So I think I don't really think that right wingers should just give support to these jesters who continue to underdeliver on their promises. You know, just let the Democrats win. That's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of just like why I don't support Vance as a voter. But
so you're saying no?
You know what's funny is that Clav always talks about how much he wants to stay away from politics and how politics is jester. But so many of his viral clips are him being forced to talk about politics. It's like he wants to stay away from this stuff. He thinks it's a waste of time. But I think that's probably one of the most polarizing things about him.
That's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of just like why I don't support Vance as a voter. But
so you're saying no, they shouldn't vote for any Republican. The right wingers should not vote for the Republican.
Not until the right actually wants to do the things that they're promising.
So is there a candidate you would prefer? I assume you don't actually want to vote for Newsom. Maybe you do. Maybe you are a Democrat. No. Okay. So then who's a right winger you want to vote for?
Right now he's thinking. We know what he's thinking, but I think he's smarter than to say it right here.
Or maybe there isn't one.
We know. Yeah, there really isn't one.
It's kind of doomer, isn't it? So now you're saying if you're a real hardcore Giga Chad right winger, you should let the Democrats rape your country.
We knew exactly what he was thinking there, but I think it was smart for him to not completely, because he would be intrinsically tied to Nick Fuentes forever after, and it would probably prevent him from doing more interviews, and it would halt his career. That was extremely smart for him to not say that there.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to. Like, that's the accelerationist mentality, because, like, look, what is the right going to do other than just, like, a small win here and, like, you know, maybe you overturn Roe v. Wade on, like, a federal level, but abortion is still allowed, like, state to state, so it's like it really doesn't do anything. It's like if these people are just going to, like, continue...
Maybe you deport 2 million people, maybe
okay, but there's still 28 million more, right? So until these people actually want to make changes that matter... Right?
I think 2 million people matters. I think...
Does it in a country of how many people? Like, what are we...
330 million or so.
Exactly. So it's like, this is...
33.
We're not really making any progress here. So for the RNC to just demand voters to continue to show up, for what, really? It's just, that's the cope, right? That's what I'm simply advocating for. Until, like, the policies change and, like, the rhetoric is a little better.
I kind of want to see more of this interview now. He was thinking about Thomas Massey, and no, he was definitely thinking about Nick. But
who's going to win? It's going to be Gavin Newsom against J.D.
you got... All right, well, this actually is of a thread with the whole conversation, because you look at these two candidates. You have Gavin Newsom, worst guy.
Actually, I want to watch some of that interview now. Hold on. Hiding power level? Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Don't go autistically there like, oh, how do I go on LinkedIn and, yo, SNEAKO, I just went to a 7-Eleven and told people about 9/11. Wow, bro, you really red-pilled the world. You really changed that 7-Eleven. You really showed them.
Looks maxing is the furthest extent that you could take self-improvement. This principle follows Wolff's law that a bone is going to grow back stronger.
You would hit yourself in the head with a hammer.
Yep.
Anyone have the timestamps? Did he timestamp this here? I want to get to the politics. I want to get to the good stuff. Look, I'm sweating. I want to change my shirt. I smell like JD Vance right now.
Smashing's legit. Tissue and your nipples growing.
Yeah.
So
What the fuck?
I guess I think that
Hey, I grant. I sometimes think that I got the last chopper out of Nam, you know, because I'm a millennial and I was single for a bit and I always liked dating when I was single, but I, you know, married the love of my life and we have this great life. And I think, man, if I had to date in the year of our Lord 2025, I would be very upset. I would have to learn how to mog. I would have to learn how to mew. I would have to learn all these skills that I don't possess.
yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the main reason that is because of Instagram, right? And a lot of people don't understand the implications of, you know, access to the internet and access to communicating with everyone across the entire world, essentially. So what that looks like in terms of...
I remember Michael Knowles' cap. I was supposed to debate him on Piers Morgan, and I did debate prep. I was ready to go. And then Michael Knowles tweeted he had no idea who I was, which is a complete lie. They contacted both of us, and obviously he knew who I was beforehand, let's be real. But that would have been fun. And I'm still willing to do it. I would love to debate Michael Knowles.
Monogamy standpoint was, you know, maybe you got a girl from your town who's going to try to date above her looks level, maybe just in her immediate surroundings. But now
It'd be a lot of fun.
we've got people like, you know, professional athletes DMing them on Instagram, flying them out. So you're not just competing with the top chads of your 15-mile radius, you're competing with the entire world. So it's
The chads of the world, maybe who even live in Chad.
Yeah,
the nation of Chad.
You got no idea. Well, I doubt it, but so it's becoming increasingly difficult to compete as like the average guy. So there's this
That
purgatory
was such
zone
a
where
stupid joke from Michael Knowles.
even someone who's average to above average could be struggling to secure a long-term relationship. And
see.
they haven't really gained enough progress to justify that looks decline with maybe the increase in income and that kind of thing. So I would say that's probably not a good idea. But certainly at 19 years old, for me to put, you know, my career sort of at
Never
a halt,
debate, just
or
discuss.
at least slow
Yeah, you're right. I would love to, don't clip that. I would love to have a discussion with Michael Knowles.
down. You know, the traction that I've been gaining seems a little bit ridiculous.
Does it need to? Does having a girlfriend or
It
or,
does.
or it does?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Just in my personal case, I mean, I do a lot of content that's, you know, talking to other girls or jester maxed like bowling or whatever normie copes like Zoomers do. So that's
I
already
gotta ask before we move on. What is jester maxed?
like they're clowns. Like
When you go bowling with a girl? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gone on a bowling date, but why is doing an activity with a girl you want to date necessarily jester maxed?
Because you want to fuck and she wants fun. And so you're pretending that you want to do the fun and you just want to fuck.
you're just like this. I think of it like you're this big jester, like doing these silly like activities. Like you're basically like just an activity cell. Like what are you doing? Like bowling? That seems.
What if you become just a dinner cell, which is a less clownish activity?
I'd say that's a little bit more reasonable, but
then
we
you
still
have to
have
talk
the
to
same
her.
issue of the inconvenience, right? And the time, right? That's 3 hours.
Yeah, no,
of
you would
dinner.
be taking. You're right. You would be saying the time that I otherwise would be spending working out, injecting,
Discussion better than debates. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Debates are like Piers Morgan panels yelling at each other. I think it's cringe. I don't watch that content.
So then it makes me think, all right, well, I don't have to do that now because I'm married. And I did something very strange, which is I married my high school sweetheart. We split up for a little bit in the middle, but I married my high school sweetheart, which people used to do all the time, reading old books and thinking about abstract mathematics and science and cultivating an inner system to the physical. So it's just, you know, meatbags bumping uglies on a screen. It's even one level abstracted.
Yeah.
But isn't that a commonality with looks maxing, which is to reduce the human person down to the level of the physical being the most important?
I would say that, yeah, it's not far from the truth, you know, but it's just what needs to be done in society. You need to improve upon this metric. You know, we could sit here.
Do you though?
You do. Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think. You guys saying then you have to pay for the bill at a nice restaurant. You have to pay for the dinner. I've come to the realization that's why I think actually IRL streaming gives you a leg up in the Jester Max dating marketplace. You know, whoa. If you're gonna take a girl out on a date, you might as well farm. Like where I'm at, I want to farm it for content. But if I am gonna go out on a date with the girl, my mentality was I need to be having a threesome. Like I'm not gonna be wasting time try to just, you know, on a dinner that's expensive to see one girl. Like we either needed to have fucked a couple times, and then you bring one of your friends so that we could do a threesome, and then I'll take you both out to dinner. I see that as more bang for your buck. And then you're at dinner with the two girls, and what makes it better is that they can talk to each other. Right? You can go on your phone and do what you want, or maybe you know somebody at the restaurant, then you don't have to like hear the stupid conversation the whole time. They can entertain each other, and they also get the experience of a nice restaurant. They're gonna take their pictures that they want. They can dress up, do the photos, take a picture of the food. The waiter brings out a smoky plate, and she records it for Instagram story. And then all the stuff about her star sign and then they handle that with each other. And then at the end, then you have the threesome and it's just a great time. Other than that, I'm not going to sit like one-on-one and do a job interview with some girl I'm just trying to fuck. Or maybe I'll go on a date if she's, worthwhile and I could see that she's marriage material, but that's just a giant waste. And I got to the point when I was dating where I just like, I would never take girls out for food. Like it would be in a group setting, like right after a show or something. But like a one-on-one, I would never do that. And there would be like a strange occasion after you fuck like 10 times where you take them out to a mid-level restaurant or something, and then they would treasure that forever. Then they become super happy. But it's just bad ROI to take a girl out to a restaurant if you haven't already fucked. Like what? Now you're on trial. That's what messes up the dynamic. Now you're the one tap dancing for her, trying to like, whoa, am I funny enough to fuck you? The dynamic should be the other way around. You should have already fucked many times, and then the reward is the dinner.
I feel like I do. I mean, listen, in my mind,
because you've achieved success in other regards to such
other regards. Are you suggesting I'm not looks max?
No, I would say that obviously anyone who does media is going to be reasonably good looking, right? So
take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, so no, you've achieved this success to such a high level that maybe you can make up for not fully looks maxing or not taking like the double jaw surgery route. Like you're a huge host of.
And I said, "Unk lob me mayo." No, the reality is, bro, if you're too afraid to show your face on the internet right now, you're probably too ugly. And I see you guys post pictures of the girls that I brought on stream and stuff, and it's like you're just making your existence worse slowly every day, obsessing over a girl that you're never going to be able to communicate with. And it becomes like a meme and a joke, but at the same time, there's truth in every joke. All right, you're never going to meet her, and you're not even confident enough in your own face to show, like you clearly don't have confidence yet. You wouldn't be able to get to speak to these women. You would fold in person. So you're saying, like, please, dude, get a grip, man.
A massive show, so that status might be able to carry you. Rather than having to.
Okay, but let's say that I weren't. I appreciate all the compliments, and it's great. And I like this is nice. I'll take it. I'll take a broad. I haven't looks minimized at least. But let's say that all that wasn't true, and let's say that I were a guy, and I were I don't know, even more looks minimized, and I was fashion minimized, and I didn't have a show, and I didn't check certain status markers. And let's say I were just a guy, different types of communities, and everything that I see is that the people who are, especially who are religiously active, but who are civically engaged, who are charitable, who are not thinking about themselves all the time, who are thinking about others and their country.
Where do they get to politics?
Stating that you might as well adapt to the times instead of just like doing all these copes like political activism when this is just the way that the world is going to go and the way that's going to continue to go. People have been trying to turn the times since the sexual revolution started to happen in the 70s, and look where that's got us, right? So if
but hold on, everything you've been saying is all this like very manly, take control of your destiny, even so much so that you're
on an individual level.
Yeah, so why can't we do it on a political level? That sounds kind of, excuse the phrase, gay to me, to say like, oh, there's nothing we can do, like the elites just control us, we can't do anything.
That's a little bit silly to compare like starting a massive political movement rather than like individual action. That's a horrible comparison.
Why is that? Politics is just a bunch of individuals working together.
Because there's a lot of bad actors that don't want to see that occur. So it's not like you're just fighting against like nothing. You're fighting against people who deliberately want society to
There are a lot of people who don't want individuals to flourish either.
Right. So I mean,
how do you divorce the two? My view, Michael, I don't have a liberal view of human beings. I don't think that we're just like individuals in isolation. I think we're the political creature. We're social animals. We live together. We work together. We are inclined naturally to live in an ordered society. And so I think doing politics is one of the most basic human impulses. And so therefore it's crazy to me to hear, well, you should go improve yourself, but don't try to improve your community.
Yeah, because it's a cope. It's not going to happen, right?
Has it not?
I mean, look at the conservative movement over the years. It's gone to absolute. So conservatives.
There have been wins and there have been losses. I'll give you an example of the sexual revolution. In 1973, we got this stupid Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade, that said you could kill babies. It was in the Constitution. And everyone said, you're never going to overturn that. It's impossible to overturn it. It's a cope if you think you're going to overturn it. You guys are wasting your time. You're wasting your breath. It took 50 years, and guess what happened? We overturned it.
Okay, now it's a state-to-state thing, right? So abortion is still very much on the table. So like,
yeah, but that's moving the goalposts.
Big win. You know what I mean?
It's a huge win. To say that there's a federal constitutional right to kill babies.
Not really.
And then everyone says you're never going to overturn that.
Yeah, like maybe it's ideological or something, or it sounds like a win on paper, but if you could still kill a baby, nothing changed.
You guys are idealistic and ridiculous. And then we do it. We actually do overturn it. And everyone says, well, never mind, that wasn't that important anyway. No, now you got to fight another battle. I agree with that. But I don't know. I notice the libs don't seem to think that political activism is useless. They seem to think
the libs. EC is trying to relate. Yeah.
Useful, and they've achieved a lot because of it.
Well, I'm personally an accelerationist, so I'd like to see where things are going to go, because I can only assume that the dating market is going to get worse and worse, and that's going to probably cause
how
people
old is Michael Knowles?
resentment.
He's pretending to be 50, right?
And it's going to have a lot of like intergender issues. Again, I hope this doesn't happen, but that's just kind of what I speculate will occur.
Well, hold on. Because when you say you're an accelerationist, I find that very interesting. Accelerationism meaning, look, we got all these social problems and they're getting even worse. And so you know what? Let's just immanentize the eschaton. Let's bring it up to the end. Let it all fall apart, and then we can finally rebuild something good.
Yeah.
But so you say I'm an accelerationist on the one hand, but you say I don't want that to happen on the other. Or that's a contradiction.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about the resentment. I'm not talking about.
But that's part of the acceleration is like we all go to war with each other and everything.
Well, just because I want that to happen doesn't mean I really have a lot of hope that the two genders like have a lot of conflict, but I hope that we can accelerate to the point where we could, start to rebuild the society and the dating market, because it's only going to slip further and further. I think the conservative movement, to a large degree, is a complete joke. And I would say that
for a long time, I agree with that.
I would say that now it's probably stronger than it was a few years ago, but largely a joke.
You should have seen it before Trump.
Yeah,
you should have seen it before Trump.
This fucking barbell machine that he sets up here is just, I can't take him seriously with this conveniently. He's wearing a suit. He's not using this. It's literally. He's talking about bad actors. This is the perfect example of a bad actor trying to be relatable. Oh, I'm a dude with my barbell.
The stuff that I'm talking about really doesn't have. I would say it's probably more of a right-wing thing in theory, but there's really no political party attached to it. And if it is the right that's supposed to be protecting us from slipping into this degeneracy that we're talking about,
but we're in the degeneracy. There's no protecting us from slipping. We've been in the degeneracy for a long time.
Going further, and if that's the right job, I don't really have a lot of hope. That's why I'm someone who's saying, yeah, individualism is good. Adapt to the society that we live in, because that's the highest chance of success.
Adapt to this. But hold on, you're saying the society is getting more degenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Adapt to the society.
Mm-hmm.
But also don't be degenerate. You see the conflict between those things.
Who's saying don't be?
You're saying to be degenerate.
I'm just saying it's what you're talking about degeneracy and the hypergamy stuff. It's not ideal, but I'm saying that's just how it is.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I misunderstood your point. So you're saying, look, the conservative movement has had all these failures. Totally agree, and we've fallen into this degenerate society, and that sucks. Totally agree.
That's just how it is.
And but then your answer is so.
I've been thinking about this a lot. You guys have seen me ponder this. We're thinking about like what the ideal relationship is right now for the way the West operates. It's probably the ideal relationship with the sexual revolution, with feminism, with the way women act, with hypergamy. It's probably a guy who has multiple women and is pretty guilty about it, and has a main wife who is a main wife who doesn't, virgin, protected, probably several years younger, and she doesn't ask questions, and then he's guilty about sleeping around. That's probably the ideal relationship. In the world, that's the black pill take. Really, truly, it's yes, blah, 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 perfect, God-fearing, this, but with the surroundings and with the environment that we live in, if you're going to be realistic, that's and understand that people succumb to their immediate emotions. That's probably what it's going to be, right?
Beat them, join them, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
It's kind of doomer.
Well, is it? I mean, like, really, it just seems like such a cope to be like, going to all these political action events as like your average guy. Like maybe you have this perspective.
Yeah, and to get to that point, it's the ideal relationship right now with the way America is. It's like it's a wealthy guy. You got to be a millionaire. You got to be top 5%, top 1%. You got to be at least 6'2". You can't have a recessed maxilla. Chronically online. Guilty about guilty about sleeping around, but you still do it. You kind of keep it separate, and then you have your main wife that you have the family, have the kids with. That's probably the most ideal.
Because you've got your own show and you've got a lot more influence over the way that the country goes than just your average guy. But if you're just like one of the average viewers who's got no voice, who could risk potentially losing their job for saying the wrong thing in politics, I'm saying that they shouldn't really be concerning themselves with trying to change the tide of society.
Well, look, people have a voice in as much as they vote. They have more of a voice than ever because of social media and new media.
They get banned and fired from their jobs.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And then we stopped a lot of that. I mean, Elon helped stop that when he bought Twitter.
Still happens.
But it happens to some degree. It's gotten a lot better. And I guess my point is, if this individualism and political quietism from the right is what led us into this mess in the first place, because it emboldened and empowered the left to screw up the whole society from dating elsewhere, then wouldn't doing more of the same only make things worse?
Well, was it really individualism that caused the huge decline in the right? I'm just talking about from
like
a self-improvement perspective and just overall like context of how you should live your life as a man. And maybe you're right about that, but I just don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to just advocate for your average person to only concern themselves with their
Yeah,
own.
to me, that's the big cope. I agree with many of the observations you're making about the society, but the big cope, you heard this with like the libs when they were trying to push the trans stuff, and they were upset that some of us were pushing against it. And they said, how does this affect you? You know, you're walking out, it's basically your society is Sodom and Gomorrah. And they say, well, how does it affect you if I decide I want to like castrate little kids in the school and redefine marriage and slaughter babies and sacrifice them to Moloch? And how does that affect you? You just mind your own business. And I think, how about I don't mind my own business? How about my business is my community, and I have a right to enforce standards and norms that are good and traditional and conducive to flourishing. And how about you mind your own business?
But the problem is, you see what you just did there is you spiked your cortisol thinking about transgenders.
Will that max anything on me?
No, that's a very catabolic hormone. So if you're advocating for people to, go around and, concern themselves with these issues, or go to, like school, like board conferences and like, be outspoken about this, that's just largely going to be unproductive. And, it might seem like a doomer mentality, or like, you're just going to let society go to it's like on an individual level, it's not going to be productive.
But on a political, right. Well, look, it's been productive in as much as, at least the trans thing, there's so many other problems. Well, at least the trans things, though, we've kind of won on that.
Well, the way that I see trannies is like...
I love that, because that's like the most autistic, unthreatening way to call somebody a bitch. It's the most professional way to call somebody a fucking bitch. You just spiked your cortisol talking about nothing. You were just acting like you just let that get you emotional.
That's one more person to mug once they brutally butcher themselves transitioning,
Is it, I see that.
Like, go descend yourself. Like, that's fine with me.
Because you're ascending yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to ascend, and this person is going to be a comical botch job, So, like, that just seems like very logical to me. Like, yeah, go be a tranny. Like, now I mug you to death.
Now, yes, I see it. Isn't that a bit cruel to like, for instance, my view of the tranny, people think I want to commit a genocide on the trannies. In fact, media outlets have written that, which is totally ridiculous. My opposition to the transgender ideology is that I think it's false, it's bad for everyone involved, and at a very real level, I love trannies. That's the part that's going to get clipped. But I love the trannies in the sense that they're my countrymen, they're fellow human beings, they're children of God. I don't want them to do things that are bad for them. I don't want to like spike the football or spike my cortisol and just mog all over them. I want them to live lives that are good and flourishing. And so I also don't want them to scandalize whole generations of kids into thinking they can be the opposite sex and screw up my society further. So there's a little bit of a selfish aspect, but there's a common good view, and there's even charity for the other person. Don't we have to have charity for these other people, even if they're descended trannies?
No, not necessarily. Think about all the time that you've spent throughout your entire life talking about trannies. What if you were to dedicate all that time to bone smashing? Imagine where you could have been.
Is that a euphemism?
No, bone smashing?
What is bone smashing? That sounds like a trannies.
That's where you
bro. Imagine if all the time you spent talking about trannies, you spent bone smash. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god. Incredible.
Microfractures, and this principle follows Wolff's law that a bone is going to grow back stronger, after you reduce these localized microtraumas. So you're going to lay in your bed to brace your head for CTE, and you're going to bone smash.
You're going to lay in your bed and brace your head for CTE. Isn't that like brain damage?
Well, no. So that's why you lay in your bed, and that's going to grow your facial bones.
You smash, like you punch yourself in the face?
Yeah.
If I punch myself in the face, I'm going to get like a nice mewed up jaw?
Yeah, according to Wolff's law, right?
Do you punch yourself in the face?
Yes. Like reasonably.
Just your fist?
Yeah. I used to use a hammer, but my parents would go into my bathroom and take it away. So that was...
You would hit yourself in the head with a hammer?
Yeah, I know. It sounds a little silly. Like, people are going to think I'm trolling, but this is all like on YouTube. Like, you can find this stuff.
I almost don't want to ask. Did it work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, bone smashing is legit. I mean, you even take a look at like UFC fighters, like their brow ridge over their career, or x-rays of their shin, and like there's massive amounts of hypertrophy in their bones.
Are there any downsides to hitting yourself in the head with a hammer?
No, as long as you have proper bracing, you're going to be fine. But that's what I mean. That's just like one example of something that you could do instead of political activism. Is bone smashing.
I'll tell you, sometimes in my political activism, I would rather hit myself in the head with a hammer. Without question.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, just dedicating your time to ascending as an individual instead of like coping and cortisol spiking about like liberalism and trannies. It's like, that's just what's going to happen anyway. Like, people are retarded for the most part, and they're going to...
You sound like that Indian guru in the Midwest. So democracy is the government for the people, but the people are...
Right. So it's like, I see all like these conservative commentators trying to, stop people from like doing drugs, and, weak-willed people, it's just kind of like Darwinism. It's like natural selection to me. If people want to be like addicted to opioids, like, I don't think we should be spending like taxpayer resources.
Someone in chat said Clav is actually funny because he never breaks character ever. The thing is that it's not a character, and you could see it even when he says something that he knows people are going to perceive as ridiculous. It's not a character and it's not a troll. This is 100% how he views the world. It's authentic.
To like build like, addiction clinics and try to pass legislation.
We should just let them kill themselves if they want.
Like, essentially, yeah. I mean, and you got to just focus on maximizing yourself as an individual.
But what what if maximizing myself as an individual, in my perception, involves growing in charity? And what if it involves ameliorating the political and social conditions in my country? And what if part of that means that I want to help other people instead of letting them kill themselves with opioids?
Well, then I would say that that's going to be a very futile cope.
You don't think you can help people? You don't think anything can improve? The Bolsheviks are about to overrun Iberia.
I don't think that I can do anything. I don't think that anyone watching can do anything. I don't think it's likely that even someone with as big of a reach as you can necessarily influence.
Could Donald Trump do something?
That's even tough to say with just like the blockade you face with like, all the different branches of power. And
let me use an example. Could we have, just hypothetically, the largest demographic transformation in the history of the world take place over 60 years in the United States, from 1965 onward, and then have an entirely open border that floods the country with some 3 million people per year, foreigners, highest percentage of foreign born ever in the United States? And then could a guy come into office and, even with all of the obstacles in his way, preside over an immigration regime that gets rid of 2 million of those people in a single year? Could that happen? Yes, obviously that did happen. That would seem to be a
2 million out of how many?
2 million out of, it's unknown, but it's anywhere from, 15 to 30 or something.
Right, so exactly.
In 1 year, it's pretty good. 60 years of problems, 2 million in 1 year, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, like this next election cycle, who's going to win? It's going to be Gavin Newsom against J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance is subhuman and Gavin Newsom mugs.
J.D. Vance is subhuman?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
He's got a very short total facial width to height ratio. He's obese, very recessed side profile, whereas Newsom is like 6'3" Chad.
So JD's very tall. JD's got to be 6'3".
Gavin Newsom obviously mugs him to death.
So you're a Newsom head. You prefer Newsom to the vice president.
I'm just telling you who's going to win.
Do you prefer him though?
Honestly, it's hard to say, but Newsom being that much more of a mogger and like having a president who's like fat and especially that young.
I don't think he's fat.
I would say
he's a bigger guy for sure.
It's just embarrassing. Like, how are you fat and you expect to like lead a country? You can't even be in shape,
So let's say you got to vote. It's 2028.
I'm voting for Gavin Newsom.
You're voting for Gavin Newsom.
You can't be that subhuman.
So hold on. You got. All right. Well, this actually is up a thread with the whole conversation because you look at these two candidates. You have Gavin Newsom, worst governor in the country. I think we would all agree. Destroyed his state, let its main city burn to the ground because of his incompetence. Is a personal, complete derelict, liar, degenerate. But he is good looking. I'll grant you that he's good looking. Yep. And kind of looks like Patrick Bateman, American Psycho. Hey. And then you have this vice president, President Trump, the transformative right wing president in our lifetimes. Who do you support Trump or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got this vice president handpicked by Trump, who is extremely intelligent, very right wing. I think he's a pretty good looking guy. I don't know. Maybe I guess you disagree. But he's all these things. Checks all these boxes. We have all these great policies. And regardless, you're going to pick the pro mass migrant, pro trans, pro murder the babies, pro burn the cities to the ground, pro BLM Democrat because he's skinnier than the conservative vice president.
100 times over. Yeah.
All right, I can't argue with that.
It just goes to show like who you are as a person, and
I think it does.
not to mention, you look at like J.D. Vance. I'd say he's probably like more concerned with like doing trips to India and like taking pictures in front of the Taj Mahal than actual politics.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's done that like once. He's done actual politics for, I don't know, like a decade.
Well, the guys, and regardless of my opinion, I'm just telling you that because of the halo effect and the subconscious bias, politics is not about like good policy anymore. It's just about like rhetoric and presentation. That's like a very like obvious thing in my opinion.
Is that true?
I would say so. I would say that if it weren't for Trump's rhetoric and charisma, he wouldn't have won in 2016.
You don't think his policies, this is where I totally disagree.
Most people who vote for Trump don't even know what he stands for.
I don't think it's true. I don't think it gives nearly enough credit to voters, and I think it ignores trends in the West. Yeah, I think he won because people are sick of the mass migration. I think he won because people are sick of elite economic policies that don't benefit working Americans and sold them out. I think he won because people don't like the weird sex stuff and making everything gay and trans. I think he won. The consensus view in the liberal media is that Trump won despite his policies because he had fiery rhetoric, and I think that's total BS. I think he had popular policies. I think that's why the Brexit passed. I think that's why right-wing parties are rising in Europe. I think voters are a lot smarter than you're giving credit.
I think if Trump were to run for the opposing party,
they're not actually. It shows like most of the people that work in Ivy League, most of the Ivy League professors are all Democrats. It's like 99% of all Ivy League. Not only that, most Ivy League graduates, they're all Democrat. And even if you look at the IQ scores, most high IQ Americans, they tend to be Democrat left-leaning. The conservative base is dominated by 90 to 100 IQ. Most Trump's base is probably the average IQ. There's probably more of a range, probably more all the way, 130, 140 on Democrats compared to like 60, 70. But Trump's base has got to be all 80 to 90. That's why they all fell for the Epstein fallout.
For the Conservative Party, I think we would have had Trump win as a Democratic.
That's like saying if up or down. I mean, what does that even mean? You're saying it's based on looks.
Yeah, just based on charisma, looks, and Gavin Newsom absolutely blows Vance out of the water with all of these things. So it doesn't really matter.
And you would vote, even if you go with that premise, you're saying that's so persuasive, you would vote for him. You, who's ostensibly a right-winger, you'd vote for one of the most left-wing and incompetent governors in the country because you think he's sexier.
No, that's not really what I'm saying at all.
I thought that's what you said. You'd vote for Newsom 100 out of 100 times.
Well, because it just, and also Vance isn't really like someone who's deserving of any right-winger's vote. I mean, like policy-wise.
Oh, so you actually have like a real personal problem with Vance. It's
Yeah.
not just that you don't use as hot as Newsom.
I think when you phrase it like that, it like tries to make it into like somewhat of a attack mechanism and like call it looks maxing like homosexual. Oh, you're just like voting for him because he's sexy. It's like, no, we're talking about subconscious biases and like the halo effect.
No, but I'm sorry. When you
like,
you said the vice president doesn't deserve a right winger's vote. So now we're not talking about looks. Now you're talking about you have a deeper issue with Vance.
Yeah, but that's not really something that we would have time to discuss today.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah, but
trying to avoid
I'm more of like a
politics.
looks max guy rather than a policy
So you
guy.
don't want to talk about it.
Not necessarily, but what I'm simply
I wonder why.
But what I'm simply stating is that this is a subconscious bias across a society of voters, and I'm predicting that Gavin Newsom is going to win because he is objectively more harmonious facially, and it just kind of tries to take away.
I wonder if that's a bit of cope for these deeper reasons that you don't want to talk about.
What, that I don't like JD Vance?
Well, yeah, I mean, because you're saying it's all about looks, but it's actually about these deeper reasons. But I don't want to talk about these deeper reasons.
Well, we could talk about.
Really good looking.
Well, we could talk about JD Vance. Like, I think JD Vance, would he be a better candidate and probably closer to me in terms of policy than Gavin Newsom? Yes, but he's just not going to be good enough to be deserving. I think the right has kind of let down the voters for the longest time. So I think I don't really think that right wingers should just give support to these jesters who continue to underdeliver on their promises. Just let the Democrats win. That's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of just like why I don't support Vance as a voter. But
so you're saying no, they shouldn't vote for any Republican. The right wingers should not vote for the Republican.
Not until the right actually wants to do the things that they are promising.
So is there a candidate you would prefer? I assume you don't actually want to vote for Newsom. Maybe you do. Maybe you are a Democrat. No. Okay. So then who's a right winger you want to vote for? Or maybe there isn't one.
No, yeah, there really isn't one.
It's kind of doomer, isn't it? So now you're saying if you're a real hardcore.
It's so funny how so many of these political conversations, everybody knows. It's the shadowy figure. Everybody knows what they're talking about. He who must not be named.
Giga Chad, right winger, you should let the Democrats rape your country.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to. Like, that's the accelerationist mentality. Because, like, look, what is the right going to do other than just like a small win here and like maybe overturn Roe v. Wade on like a federal level, but abortion is still allowed, like state to state. So it's like it really doesn't do anything. It's like if these people are just going to like continue.
Maybe you deport 2 million people. Maybe
okay, but there's still 28 million more, right? So until these people like actually want to make changes that matter. Right?
I think 2 million people matters. I think
does it in a country of how many people? Like, what are we?
330 million or so.
Exactly. So it's like this is we're not really making any progress here. So for the RNC to just demand voters to continue to show up for what? Really, it's just that's the cope, right? That's what I'm simply advocating for. Until like the policies change and like the rhetoric is a little better.
How would the policies change? This is what I'm confused about. Is had a Democrat won. Just use this past year. Had a Democrat won, we would get, just judging by Biden's policies, so as Biden's vice president was running, you would add 3 million illegal aliens to the country. Because Trump won, not only do you not add 3 million, you lose 2 million. So now you have a net change of 5 million potential foreigners who would be in the United States over the course of 1 year. And you're saying, yeah, it's not good enough. Sorry, bro.
It's not. It really is not good enough.
So what are you doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny too. Michael Knowles is trying to be the trad con, everything should be perfect, no degeneracy. He poured up this giant glass of whiskey for Clav, and he's 20. He's not even old enough to drink. He's not even old enough to have this drink here.
Realizing that society is going one direction, and I'm trying to improve myself as much as possible so that I can succeed financially, so that I can improve my status and improve my quality of life.
Do you think you will succeed if your country goes to hell in a handbasket?
Yeah. So, like, what are we talking about here with the immigration? It's like I'm not competing in the job market with illegal aliens from Mexico, so it really doesn't concern me.
Well, who are you competing with?
Other people on social media.
Right. You're in this particular field. Okay. But if your country is no longer safe, if your country is no longer conducive to raising a family, if your country is no longer the global reserve currency, such that your wealth is not quite as secure as it's been in the past, isn't your personal success precarious?
Well, things need to get so bad that people are just like, okay, we're fine with having like the National Guard in major cities, things like that. Yeah. And that's not going to occur unless people just like stop voting for Republicans who just like maybe slow down like, the progress of the left a little bit across a few elections, but they're not doing enough.
What's very interesting, I totally disagree with everything you're saying, but what's very interesting about it is by saying, look, not only am I apathetic, I want the Democrats to win.
Oh, yeah,
because they're going to be
that's a good way it's a good way to describe it. It's just the voting for a tradcon Republican like this, all they're doing is slightly slowing what's inevitably going to happen to this country. It's going to happen, but it's putting a Band-Aid over a big faucet leak. Might as well just let it flood.
They're going to screw up the country, and then we'll have a revolution. It'll be good again.
Right.
What's interesting about that to me is it reflects something quite real and I think quite understandable, which is the alienation, especially among young men, especially among young right-wing men, from the country that at very high levels in popular media and government has told that group of people that they sucked for like 30 years. That I totally resonate with. So how widespread do you think that alienation is?
I would say that the reason that I have the success I do is because it's almost in every kid my age who in the same demographic is people are tired of being banned on social media. People are tired of
being called toxic.
Right. The government not advocating for them whatsoever. So I would say that it's probably more common than not.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I don't know. I'm a little more hopeful about it. Like when I talk to young Zoomers all around the country, I find they're much more right wing than they were even 10 years ago, which I like. I think they're much more serious about the political situation. I think they're
I
grappling with
saw a metric that Gen Z has the highest amount of churchgoers out of one of the highest generation of churchgoers in recent, more than millennials and more than Gen X.
issues that they're afraid to talk about because they want to be called racist or whatever. So I find all of that to be encouraging. I guess I come to the opposite conclusion that you've come to, which is, I don't know, what if we got like 12 more years of this kind of government that we're getting now? If you get 12 more years of deporting 2 million people a year, by my calculation, that's 24 million people. If you get 12 more years of judges, then I see much more success on the abortion issue. If you get 12 more years of declining support for same-sex marriage, for instance, and maybe a restitution of the meaning of marriage, that seems pretty good. If you get 12 more years of ending affirmative action, which the Supreme Court also recently did in college admissions, and actually punishing the schools who still insist upon discriminating against, especially white guys, Asian students too. If you just keep stacking those wins, it seems to me not unreasonable that you have a much better country.
It's very unreasonable. I mean, do you honestly believe that JD Vance is going to be the next president?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
You actually believe that?
It's contingent on the economy doing well, but yeah, I do.
I would probably bet every last cent I own that Gavin Newsom would win.
You think, first of all, you think Newsom will win the primary?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be the next president.
You think the Democratic Party?
Due to the mug.
You think the Democratic Party is going to? I grant his mugging. You think they're going to nominate over a black woman, Kamala wants it, over a gay guy, Buttigieg wants it, over Gretchen Whitmer, whatever she is? You think they're going to nominate a good-looking white man?
Yeah, because I realize we're not there yet as a country. Like, no one wants to vote for like a woman. There's still a lot of like moderate Democrats who are just like, okay, this is silly. So they probably.
You think there's a lot of moderate Democrats?
Yeah,
I don't see a lot of moderate Democrats
who think that we're not there yet to like put women forward as
they've nominated women for their last two.
Yeah, they've not, but they haven't won.
Right.
So
I agree they're wrong. I'm just wondering what makes you think they've realized that.
I think the DNC is going to be like, okay, we're just not here yet. I think they still think that a woman should be president, which is absurd to me. But they're going to be like, okay, this is not where the voters are yet. We're going to put ahead Gavin Newsom.
Interesting. Oh, look, maybe he could.
That would just be basic strategy, and that would.
Yes,
be like,
I agree. That would be a reasonable basic strategy. I don't think they do that. I don't think that a competent party apparatus that wasn't totally beholden to its most lunatic fringe would have, 1, even pushed out Joe Biden, 2, thought Kamala Harris had a chance, 3, thought Hillary Clinton had a chance, 4, run Jasmine Crockett for Senate, 5, think that AOC is going to take a Senate seat in New York or run for president herself.
She's at least a little better looking than Kamala.
She looks maxed.
Not looks max, but she's got Kamala beat, that's for sure. So Kamala is not only a woman, but she's an ugly one at that. So the DNC's they've got to know by now. I think they're not going to make the same mistake that they did, which is why Gavin will definitely get the primary.
You ever see young Hillary, like pictures of younger Hillary?
She wasn't too bad.
Can I say something that's going to be
really
high? I think she actually looked, by political standard, I think she actually looked pretty good, young Hillary.
Not good enough to stop Bill Clinton from cheating on her.
Well, Bill had some problems. Bill's got a particular proclivity.
Well, I mean, dude, he's just like, I feel like Bill Clinton did probably the same thing that most people would do if they were president to slay in the Oval Office.
Well, look, there have been plenty of adulterous presidents who slayed. Plenty of them. Largely Democrats. JFK, of course, FDR, all these guys. Yeah. You think, wait, hold on, that's good to, no, it's not good to slay.
Well, dude, that's like
if you're a married man, it's not good to slay.
Well, that's like achieving pinnacle status and leveraging it. So I think that's like kind of the point of like status maxing.
You think that turning an intern, and that particular intern, into a human humidor in the Oval Office is status maxing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's like
I think that was embarrassing.
That's like the textbook definition of like status maxing. It's like you become the president.
And you might as well get dome in the Oval Office, nigga. But you think I'm not gonna get top from this intern coming and giving me coffee? Give me coffee and give me sloppy toppy under the Oval Office while I'm signing legislation.
You can slay whoever you want in the Oval Office.
I find it kind of degenerate and evidence that one is not in control of one's own base passions. I find it unmanly even.
Yeah, I think being like a prisoner of lust is like, I've seen like a lot of philosophers.
Yeah, it's kind of like pornified and gooning and all those things you said earlier are bad.
No, it's not like comparing like slaying like actual women to porn. I wouldn't necessarily agree with you.
What if it's fornication or sterile, like contraceptive sex, which is in many ways indistinguishable from sodomy? What if it's, I don't know, I consider all that to be kind of emasculating, effeminate behavior.
No, I wouldn't say so.
You don't think so?
I think that's kind of just like how the world is these days.
But I think the world is degenerate and effeminate. So I guess I agree with you.
It is degenerate, but it's like, okay, if we're living in a society that rewards like hypergamy and rewards having a lot of sexual partners and slaying, and you're like the top like echelon of men, you're the president of the United States, you mog, and you're not taking advantage of that, that just seems like a missed opportunity to me.
Do you think Bill Clinton's life improved because he did that thing with Monica in the Oval Office? Or do you think his life was worse because of it?
I think it was worse because he didn't double down and just say like exactly what I'm saying now.
I think he still would have gotten impeached, even if he got up there and mogged and said, I totally did it.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, if he would have doubled down, I think people would find that to be funny.
They would find it to be funny.
Like,
I think he still would have been impeached. In fact, I'm certain he would have been impeached.
I think you're underestimating the double down bill. You know, like quite literally.
But we might never know because of the counterfactual. But I guess to your point, look, yeah, the world reward.
The Nick Pierce interview is a good example of the double down pill.
It's a
People,
bunch of-
the whole apology retracting. I never had relations with that woman. It doesn't work anymore. People just want to see you not apologize. We got so tired of apologies.
Inherent behavior. We
Right.
totally agree with that. Principalities and powers and spiritual weakness in high places govern the world, and the evil prosper often, and the good are, you know, persecuted. That's all true. But like, we live in a world that crucified Christ, right?
Mhm.
So is that a recommendation of doing the same ourselves?
I don't really think that would be a comparable thing. Like, how can you make that comparison?
You're saying at a very basic level, this world rewards vice and sin.
Mhm.
Therefore, we should sin and commit vice. Seems to be a non sequitur from that, because we know that those things are bad, and we know that this world rewards bad things.
Yeah, I think that unless society was ready to rebuild, it's very much a cope to try to go against it and go against its ways, even if it's wrong.
Go along with the world. That's the message.
Yeah.
That's like the opposite. You know, it's funny, man. I was expecting when you were coming. Obviously, I don't know much about looks maxing and all this stuff.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Michael here. Obviously, you can't really change the situation around you. You can do the best you can do, but to give up completely and not try to do the right thing and give up to the world, that is the form of cucking. It is a form of, you're not fighting anymore. You're just abiding to something that you think it's being a prisoner. That is a slave mentality. Even if you can't free all the slaves immediately, you need somebody defiant.
But I was expecting your thesis to be the opposite of that, basically to say, no, go against the grain, swim upstream. The world is going to make you descend, and you got to ascend, and you got to improve yourself.
you do have to ascend.
But you're saying, no, just man, whatever, just go along with it.
Yeah, go along with, you know, society and the direction it's taking, but make sure you position yourself in the most optimal way possible to take advantage of this. It's just about positioning. Society's going to go the way that society's going to go. But how are you positioning yourself as an individual, right? Because I could sit here and talk about all these big ideas and like.
And I understand what he's saying too. So he's all about. We talked about this on stream yesterday. It's about individuation, which is the more extreme version of capitalism and also of human nature. I think what separates conservatives and liberals is conservatives, they understand that you have to put yourself first. And people don't really mean yourself when they talk about that you mean your community and you mean your family, you mean your children, the people around you. That's why the right wing is against mass immigration, because there's so many problems in this country, we can't be helpful. Liberals think, let's just help everybody, kumbaya, we'll all hold hands, flood the gates, let all these immigrants in, right? Give everybody money, everybody. They have no idea about borders, about country, no patriotism, or even about community at all. The more extreme version of that mentality is completely focusing on yourself, individuation. But I think you can go a step further and realize that you can't really be happy as an individual without the community. And so you actually are prioritizing yourself and the individual by benefiting your community, because you'll be happier. Right, read the Unabomber Manifesto. You need community to survive. We are a social species.
And try to start a political movement. But I just am a realistic guy. I know it's cope. I've seen a million people attempt the same thing.
But we've also seen successful, political movements, social movements, religious movements. We've seen over the course of history, things sometimes get worse, things sometimes get better. You know, I think, to use a really based example, something I started to mention earlier, the Bolsheviks were about to overrun Iberia. They were about to take over Spain. And there's this guy, Francisco Franco, maligned in some quarters, but this guy Franco cobbles together a bunch of people, many of whom don't disagree, some of whom are of kind of dubious character. He cobbles them together to get the communists out of Iberia. These were people who were raping nuns and killing priests, who would have destroyed the continent, given the Soviet Union a major...
Wait, chat, talk if you're normal right now. There's like some weirdos that I need to ban, that the mods aren't doing their job.
Foothold in Western Europe. And they got stopped because people weren't huge black-pilled doomers and thought they could actually do something. And indeed prayed to God, by the way, for grace to overcome daunting odds. And they didn't just throw their hands up in the air. Isn't that, if we're trying to give the most base example possible of, like, for real right-wingers who feel alienated from decadent liberal society, doesn't that counter your argument?
Well, that's more of a realistic thing. If the right wing wasn't such a joke, I would be, doing a show right alongside you, advocating for these different things. But I think the entire system is just such a letdown that until...
You're disappointed by Trump?
I'm disappointed by the entire right wing.
Led by Trump?
I don't necessarily think that it's exclusively Trump, or I'm not...
Not exclusively, but he's the president. He's the head of it.
I personally feel like the right wing has not done what it's promised, or provided any sort of hope, like, maybe like Franco did in the example that you just used. Obviously that's going to get clipped up, and
it's going to be that clip, and I love trannies. Those are the two.
Yeah, now I'm a fascist, and now you love trannies.
Yeah, which is worse. I don't know which one's going to be worse on the internet.
Yeah.
So, on your on your individual point, maybe just to bring it to a wrap with all of these observations you're making, saying that from your view of looks maxing and how man should live in society, you say, look, the guy who's going to overdose on opioids, let him. It's fine.
Yep.
Look, the pro-trans, pro-baby murder guy who burns the cities down, Gavin Newsom, good. I want him to be president. Let's hurry it up. I don't have time for a girlfriend. I don't want to think about other people. I want to do my stream and get wealthy and famous and look even better. Smash myself in the head with a hammer. One thing that would appear to be missing from your ideology is concern for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's unfair?
Yeah, and I haven't really clarified my position. Is I care deeply about the struggles of the average male being unable to even find like a romantic partner. Like, men 18 through 21 years old, 2/3 of them haven't had sex in 6 months. It's
good. They shouldn't. They should get married.
Well,
before they have sex. I'm not saying get married at 18, but they should wait to have sex to get married.
But that's just showing it's not even something that.
Yeah, but it's not their choice. Like, this is such a stupid thing for Michael Knowles. It's not about marriage. It's because they can't get women at all. It's not a marriage problem. It's an incel problem.
They're trying, that they're able to do, right, in this degenerate society because of how hypergamous it is. And not too long ago, before I was ascended, like earlier this year, like I was in the same position of, the average everyday male working a job, maybe not as good looking. And so I absolutely am very empathetic of that struggle. And I think that that's something that needs to be advocated for more than any political movement, right?
But that would be wouldn't that be a political? Political just means public.
Right.
Just means you do things together.
Political in the context of like the stuff that we were just talking about. I think that men's issues are largely overlooked. But I'm saying for young men to succeed, they need to put themselves in the forefront, and all the other stuff about society, the direction it's taking, trannies in school, that needs to take a back seat for their individual struggle because they're really not doing well. Men are doing worse than they ever have in almost every metric. And the only way to overcome that.
That's also a great point. Like maybe that's the most important priority is fixing the male loneliness epidemic, the lack of sex, the incel problem, the hypergamous problem. It's all, this role of feminism, of corrupt politicians, all this. Maybe that will be the catalyst, because if you don't have strong men, then you can't lead a revolution with a bunch of trannies and feminists. You need to have men who are capable of leading. And just right now, we don't live in a country where that's the case at all.
Is just focusing on oneself to the maximum, doing whatever it takes to ascend.
So how do you fix that? You have to fix that by getting men to prioritize themselves fully. Getting men out of that loop, out of that. That's what all the Matrix stuff in 2022 is about. Getting men out of that cycle, being able to escape the slave mine, the porn addiction, the gambling addiction. They're distracted, unmotivated. People are afraid about losing their jobs because AI is taking over, right? Even the amount of debt, the average debt in Gen Z is $94,000. So people are broke. They don't think they can have a family. They don't know what job they're going to work. They can't get a woman. They have less testosterone than before. They have lower IQ. Their attention spans suck. The women are more annoying and masculine. It doesn't seem like a bright future. And then they expect these same young men to have undying allegiance to the Republican Party, the Conservative Party. It's the same people that let them down in the first place. And that's the lack of understanding between these two generations right here. That's why this conversation is so great. It really reflects the problems that the youth all understand, and the lack of empathy or comprehension for that problem from previous generations who just expect you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do exactly as they say. You do have to escape the matrix. You do have to, the new word is ascend. You do have to ascend. You have to be in incredible physical shape. Look at Kai Cenat, for example. Kai Cenat is one of the most rich and famous people in Gen Z, young men in Gen Z, and his girls walking all over him, rinsing him for G-Wagons on Christmas. This is a guy that should have as many options as possible. He shouldn't even be in this situation to begin with. He's telling his girlfriend, hey, maybe keep your mom's drama off the internet, and she's going live and slandering him anyway and ruining his reputation, when the reputation is how he was able to provide anything in the first place. Right? It's the standards for a young man to lead a happy life right now, to get to the point where you could have a stable job and have a wife and have kids. It's a pipe dream. Millennials, Gen X, boomers, they don't seem to understand that, how absolutely difficult it is to get to that point now. It takes a life's work, and it used to be normal stepping stones. And that is the sign. That's a major sign. The writing on the wall is there. When what was once normal becomes a pipe dream for an entire generation, that's a society that will collapse. When owning a house, seems like a dream, or having a kid seems like a financial burden. Previous generations, that was just expected. That was the rite of passage. You're born, you graduate, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house. The last 3 steps of that 5-step plan, almost impossible now for it is impossible now for the average guy. That's what they all think. It's what we all think.
There's no place for any of the stuff that, you know, you're talking about in that mentality.
Charity? There's no place for charity in that mentality? I guess my argument is you can't possibly improve yourself as a person if you don't have charity. To take St. Paul as an example, I think you could have every single virtue. You can be the most mogging, looks-maxed, giggy super chad in the world, doing weird stuff in the Oval Office. And if you lack charity, you have nothing. You're a clanging gong.
But how could you be charitable if your disposition is so terrible in life? You've got no money, you've got no time because you work.
You could have 2
3
cents to work
jobs.
together. You could give one of them away, and that would be an act of charity.
Okay,
and in fact, that's an example that our Lord uses in the Gospels.
Like, come on, like on a realistic note, like you're not going to be capable of charity.
Of course, anybody's capable of charity.
Okay.
Charity is love for another person for their own sake.
Okay, but
that's it.
We're talking about. Okay, fair enough. What I'm simply saying is that, you know, people need to be doing whatever they can to position themselves in a way that maybe they will be capable of the spirituality that you're talking about. But I think that people working 3 jobs just to make ends meet because of the economy.
Another great point. Like, people expect, especially, this is, I think, kind of unique. Obviously, there's an overlap with the Christian and Muslim community, but Muslims always have this expectation, and not always, but you see it a lot, that you're supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to be, you know, completely on deen, praying 5 times. How am I going to pray 5 times a day when I have to work 2 jobs and I go to school and people are nagging at me all the time, and I don't know if I can get a woman. I don't know what my future is going to be, and I barely have time to sleep. I have to pray 5 times a day. You expect me to to even be practicing your religion properly, you have to be financially free. Isn't that incredible? To be able to have the free time on the weekends, you work all week, and then you have to give away time on Friday to go to Juma or Sunday to go to Mass. It's like to even be in a position to practice spirituality correctly, you need to have already ascended and escaped the matrix. It takes 3 minutes per prayer. That's a lot. That's a major distraction a lot of the time, to be able to set it up and prepare and get mentally there. Because even to be able to pray properly, you have to be mentally present. That's part of the requirements of prayer. But if you have more stress than ever before, your brain's fried from doom scrolling, you've already, like, or say you just watch porn because it's everywhere, then you have to go you have to go and cleanse yourself, because why are you going to pray when you have all this filth on you? And then they'll lecture you and say, oh, you're supposed to be God-fearing, you're supposed to be perfect, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. It's like, dude, you don't even understand the amount of stimulation that's around me and what's going through my head.
Able to find a romantic partner, maybe we focus on the spiritual aspect after we've overcame like this horrible position.
I'll do it later. I'll be charitable later, but not. Well, I'm saying if you want to improve yourself, I'm not saying you shouldn't look. Yeah, it's good to look good and to dress well and to try to improve yourself in all manner of ways and get smarter and whatever. But if you ignore charity, concern for others, which is expressed in all these sorts of ways. I mean, even to say I care about young men's issues, but if they want to OD on opioids, guess who's ODing on opioids? It's men. You know, you say, well, forget about them. Who cares? I'm going to focus on numero uno over here. To me, it just seems if you ignore that part, you're ignoring the key. You're saying, you know, I'm gonna bake a loaf of bread and I'm gonna have all the ingredients except the flour.
What I'm saying is, I care about young men, but if people decide to go that route of being drug addicts, it's going to take up my time as well as anyone else who I'm calling upon, you know, to join my political movement. It's going to take up their time to try to fix this issue of people who don't want to help themselves. So people who want to help themselves and people who genuinely want improvement, I'm all for that. I'm like, okay, what can we do? That's why I make like YouTube videos, like informational content, like how do you looks max. So that's why I do that. But you've got to want to help yourself, right? And I've got no empathy really for people who don't want that, like even to begin with.
Yeah, that resonates. I sympathize with that view for sure. It does drive me crazy, and I think we should boot a lot of people off the welfare system who are abusing it, for instance.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that the difference here is, you know, there's this famous expression, God helps those who help themselves. However, that isn't really true. Like it almost gets at the truth, but the Christian idea is that actually, no, you can't really do much of anything on your own. That actually God's grace abounds, and you have the free will to cooperate with it or not cooperate with it. So in that way, you really are free. But it's no God offers to help everyone, and you know, in the course of justice, none of us would see salvation, and we need to have grace for everybody. And I guess then my argument, even down from an individual standpoint, is you would live a fuller, better life. You would smile more at the end of your days, and you would have more faith, hope, and charity if you don't just think about yourself all the time, which I fear is a little bit of what the looks maxing thing leads to.
Well, potentially, but that's going to be person to person, like feeling good.
I don't think it's person to person. I'm saying
Okay.
I think that's a fact of human nature.
Okay, so now I feel better. Maybe I have a little bit better well-being. What is that going to do? That's not like an immediate, like on paper result necessarily. Whereas like increasing your looks, which is a tangible thing, or increasing your income, your status, like these are all very like tangible.
But your income,
achievements.
in my view, the looks and the money and the
Looks, money,
status,
status.
and
It's a
all,
triad.
yeah, all of that, they can be nice, but all of those are for flourishing. To use the old Greek term, eudaimonia, happiness or flourishing. That's what it's for. And I would take it one step further. We're not going to live very long on this earth. We'll be here, I don't know, 80 years.
And that's also one thing that Clav doesn't touch on, is that true ascension is helping others. That is the true final step of ascension if you want to be happy, right? Because the happiness is the goal in a way. And I think a lot of people mistake that for immediate happiness. You could say that you're going to have a bunch of degenerate sex and take a bunch of drugs or just do whatever you want in order to be happy. But true fulfillment comes from helping the world. That is the final ascension. There's no other better immediate feeling than helping others. Right? So when you get to that point where you've looks maxed, you've finance maxed, and you're finally you've fully ascended, and you're happy, you have a family, you're healthy, secure business, and you've been able to keep your mind away from the programming. What you do with the opportunity and what you have and what you've built, the best thing is helping others. Because if you don't think that, and if you don't do that, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna be a degenerate more. Look at Dan Bilzerian, perfect example. Rich guy, did whatever he wanted, and he finds it more fulfilling now to tell the truth than it did to be a degenerate on private planes and doing the whole celebrity party stuff. He'd had the whole Diddy parties without the baby oil and the cuck stuff. He had all the Instagram models, all this, and he said it wasn't fulfilling at all. It was looks maxing, taking testosterone, self-serving, flying girls out, but it's an empty, vapid nothingness, because when you only serve the self, you're serving the ego. You're just feeding your own dopamine, and you're not providing anything. True ascension is getting to the point where you're able to provide to others and create. That's the beauty of being a man, and that's the beauty of what God gave us, is that we're able to create. And if you just use that ability to create jizz on a Instagram model girl's stomach, that fades, and you will feel that emptiness. You will feel that knot. I think a lot of people in Gen Z will see that as appealing immediately because they don't have it. But once you do have it, you realize just how empty it is and how it really isn't fulfilling. Like, when you slept with 50 women, you slept with all of them, and there's nothing that you get from that. True fulfillment comes when you see people, when you change people's lives, and you make the world a better place. And some people will call that selfish. Okay, you're doing it to make yourself feel better. I don't really think that the intention matters at that point. Even if you're helping others because it makes you feel better, fine. If you're helping others out of a self-serving need and desire, I don't think that anybody should have a dilemma about that.
Maybe by current standards, and then we're going to go take a dirt nap. And I think that that's not the end of the story, because we're rational creatures with a rational soul. And so I think that there's eternity too, and that it doesn't actually make any sense to consider the natural lens of life divorced from the supernatural lens of life. Because
actually, what I think about a lot, and I want to give you guys credit for this too. In Ramadan 2024, Love Speech, we raised $100,000 for starving kids in Gaza. And one of the beautiful things about it is we had the results to show. We had all the videos, and we saw that our money went directly into bowls of food, into stoves, into people that were serving the kids. We saw the money being used to help kids who were starving. That is what I'm most proud of in life, was doing those streams for a month and raising all of that money. And you guys did that, and I give you credit for that. A lot of the charities I'm seeing now, like I gave $1,000 to that water thing. I haven't seen any of the wells being built. I haven't seen it, and maybe they are being built, but it's like, did this really even happen? If a tree falls in the woods, did it really fall? And people say, okay, well, you don't need to see it. It's just egotistical to need to see it. I think that's fine. I think that's fine to do charity and do good things and want to see the results of it, because it makes you feel good too. And you're going to want to do it more. And eventually, though, it's a transactional thing. So I want to see the results from all these charities that these people are propping up. They're calling all these celebrities and saying, hey, influencer, give me this money, give me this money, and I feel obliged to do it too, especially you're required to give 2.5% of your wealth every year. supposed to give charity. I haven't seen either. Where are the wells that were supposed to be built? And also, is this the main priority right now? How much money really needs to be spent on digging a hole? That's all. Shouldn't the money be better spent on actual food, on getting people into places where it's hard to get grocery stores and where Israel's bombing the food supply? It seems like that's the best use of our money and our time, rather than spending millions and millions of dollars on digging holes in the ground. Don't you think the Africans are able to dig a hole themselves to get water if it's literally right there? Right. And this is coming from somebody who spent $1,000 on the Team Water charity. So I want to see that from Mr. Beast. I don't know what happened there. He won the Guinness Book of World Records. He got a bunch of PR benefits from that. Everybody saw him as the good guy, but I haven't seen any of the actual results. And I'm seeing people criticize Kai Cenat for that school in Nigeria. Hopefully he is doing it, and maybe it's just that it's in a process. But that's the issue, especially when it's a social media charity fund. People want to see where their money's being spent on. So the bigger point is like, that is my biggest achievement in life. It's not, getting unbanned on YouTube or hitting 1 million or financial goals. Somebody asked me recently on Christmas, like, what's your purpose? Like, what's your goal? And I think she was expecting me to say something like 10 million subs, $100 million. My answer was just do the best I can every day. That's my main driving function, is do the best I can. So, and what I'm most proud of and where I felt the most fulfilled was getting that charity done and seeing the money being spent properly. Shout out to you guys for doing that.
Is a lot longer than 80 years. Does that factor into your thinking at all, or no?
No.
No.
I'm simply focusing
Because
on...
in your defense, you're 19. I didn't think about that very much.
I don't like that thing that people do. Well, you're only 19, so you...
When I was 19, I did not think about those things. I'll phrase it that way.
Well, that's another, same iteration of what you just said.
Yes.
But simply what I'm suggesting is that you focus on the looks money status, increasing those, doing whatever it takes to achieve that. And after you've achieved that, your positioning will be better. What you're able to accomplish or what you're able to strive for increases exponentially. I think you would probably agree with that.
Well, it depends what you mean by accomplish, because I know a lot of very successful people on paper who are miserable, whose lives are wrecks, who have,
well, forget the anecdotes, but like conceptually, like if these 3 metrics are increased, what you're able to accomplish goes up. Would you agree with that? If you're better
What
looking...
do you mean by accomplish?
Like
you can make more money, but that's a truism, right? You say if you make more money, you can make more money. Yeah, duh. But
your life will be better. Your life will...
Does money buy happiness?
Well, we're talking about 3 different metrics: looks, money, status.
Do you think looks, money, and status buy happiness?
Not necessarily, but
that's my point.
Just as
exactly
as a general concept across a society, you don't think that dialing up these 3 metrics would cause an increase in quality of life for men?
They can. They can also make your life.
They likely will. Let's not be disingenuous here.
I'm not being disingenuous at all. Actually, you can look at the data from lottery winners. Winning the lottery usually does not improve people's lives. Often it leaves them much worse off because they don't know how to handle the money and they get this influx from out of nowhere. And often they'll go into debt. They end up with tax problems. They end up with marriage problems. Same thing can go for looks. You're seeing a divorce rate spike because of Ozempic, and though that might have some chemical aspects too, not merely just looking better. My point is, all of these worldly measures of success, they can be great. Look, man, I'm not turning down money. Give me some more money. That sounds nice. I'm just saying there's some caution that goes with that, that should go with that. And if, as you say, money, status, and looks are, I guess you're saying those are the end goal.
Well, where I was going, but I find that ridiculous for anyone to disagree that increasing these metrics is not a positive thing.
But you just said money doesn't buy happiness, so you agreed with me previously. Now you're saying it's ridiculous to say that.
I said, but you're potentially right. Could money buy happiness in some cases? But is it a positive thing? Could we even phrase it like that?
It can be.
Okay,
not always.
Right. So I'll take that. But once you've achieved this, whether you want to go the spiritual route, what you're talking about, or maybe you don't choose that, maybe you're and you choose to be, maybe degenerate. It's like, that's another whole conversation. I think we should just position ourselves and then figure out what men should do after that.
No, but I guess that's the conversation, because I think you've gotten to it in that last part, which is, well, look, if you live a good life, if you do the things that are associated with a good life after the looks, money, and status, if you do the things that we consider to be like good, I think you'll have a good life.
Right.
And if you do the things that make you a degenerate, you'll have a bad life. And my point is, looks, money, and status can lead you to both. Yeah. And they can lead you to more of both, actually. And so that's the part that I'm curious about.
Yeah, so it's a generally positive thing to improve these upon these metrics. We would just have to figure out what to do from there, and that's a very tough conversation.
If looks, money, and status increase your likelihood of having, let's say they can increase your likelihood of having a good life, or they can increase your likelihood of having a degenerate life, then they're not generally a positive thing.
Well, no, a good life in your context with being spiritual and being charitable.
I'm saying there's
Yandi, I never promoted anything. I gave a giveaway to people in the community. I gave a bunch of people money, and I said that I bought some, and that I lost some of that too. But I never promoted. I never told you to buy anything, dumbass. I gave a giveaway. I gave free money to, I think, almost everybody in Love Speech.
object, just as you say there's an objectivity to beauty, I think there's an objectivity to the other transcendentals, truth and goodness. So that goodness is not just a subjective thing. You know, you like chocolate, I like vanilla, but actually some things really are good, some things really are bad.
And I would tend to agree with you a little bit that going the route of faith, going the route of humility versus like going around slaying a bunch of chicks after ascending, like I'm more in your camp,
of course,
with that. So we don't really disagree there.
Yeah.
That's ideal. But either way, I think just what I'm advocating for, increasing money status looks, just seems very logical, regardless of the route you choose to take. I advocate for what you're suggesting. That's just not the society we live in. So my realistic instinct is saying, okay, well, take advantage of how things are with the amount of women you're able to access now, just how it is.
You
I don't really think that's a contradiction whatsoever.
Well, if you're saying, look, yeah, Michael, I agree with you. It's once you've ascended, you shouldn't be just slaying all the time.
This is a good conversation, by the way. It's really good. Do you guys like the content that I've been doing with Clav? I think it's a breath of fresh air. I enjoy the conversation we've been having. I got to speak to him again today. I thought that was we've done a lot of content together already. Gonna go to Miami soon again. Gonna make sure I go back. But yeah, he says he's gonna come to New York so soon. But yeah, really, that was a good conversation. I didn't expect to be as locked in on that as I was.